Welcome to a deep dive. You guys all about visual thinking. We've got some really interesting stuff from you about it. This time around, we're really going to be looking at this book, Visual Thinking, Unleashing the Power of Images in Problem Solving and Communication. So get ready, because we're diving in.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that we kind of take for granted, I think, how much we rely on visual processing.
Right.
Just in everyday life. It's
Yeah.
how we, fundamentally understand the world.
Right. And it's more than just looking at things, this visual thinking. That's kind of like next level.
Absolutely.
It's really using your brain, using images,
Mm.
kind of boost your brain power
Yeah.
for problem solving, even communication, like it says right there in the title.
Yeah, and the book really digs into that, how to go from just basic sight to almost like a visual ESP.
Visual ESP, yeah, I like that.
It's really about harnessing that power.
Right.
And one of the things that I found just absolutely mind-blowing in this book was this stat that our brains can process images something like 60,000 times faster than text.
60,000.
60,000. It's incredible. It makes you really appreciate the power of a picture,
It really does, yeah.
Yeah.
That number, I had to stop and reread it when I first saw it.
Right.
But it makes you realize, if you try to explain something,
Yeah.
imagine trying to describe the internet
Oh, God.
to somebody
Yeah.
without using any visuals.
With only words.
Just words, exactly.
It would be
It's like, right.
Yeah, it would be impossible. A jumbled mess.
Right.
But you show someone a diagram.
Right.
Suddenly, everything clicks.
Everything clicks into place.
And it's not even just about the speed, The book talks about how different parts of our brains
Right.
light up when we look at visuals. The regions involved in memory, language, even spatial reasoning, they all kind of get in on the action.
It's like a brain party.
It's a brain party.
Yeah.
And everyone's invited.
Everyone's invited when there's pictures. But if it's just, words, only the nerds show up.
Exactly. But seriously, think about it. Reading a textbook about a historical event versus seeing a picture, like a detailed illustration, or even better, watching a documentary.
Right.
With amazing visuals.
Totally different, yeah.
The impact is it's completely different.
Oh, for sure. If you see, especially with historical things, when you can see what people were wearing.
Yes.
The buildings, their expressions on their faces.
You're transported back in time.
Yeah, way more engaging for sure.
It's amazing.
Okay, so we're in agreement. Visuals are great. Our brains love them.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we use this? What can we actually do with this information?
Right. How can we tap into these visual superpowers?
Exactly.
Well, the good news is the book actually gives us some practical things we can do.
Right.
Techniques that we can all start using.
Awesome.
One that I found really interesting was mind mapping.
Mind mapping.
Okay.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I've always kind of felt intimidated by it a little bit.
Really.
What if I make it and it just looks like a 5-year-old,
No.
just scribbled all over it?
It's not about being an artist.
Okay.
It's really not about creating this beautiful masterpiece.
Ah.
It's more about just having a way to visually represent your thought process.
Okay.
Right? So you start with the central idea
Okay.
and you branch out
Yeah.
with related concepts.
Mhm.
You use keywords and colors, and you can even add little doodles if you want to.
So it's like a brainstorm, but you're writing it down as you go.
Exactly. Like a structured brainstorm.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is this book was talking about how students who use mind maps to study,
Yeah.
they actually have been shown to have a 15% increase in retention
Really?
versus just regular note taking.
Wow.
15%, that's huge.
Yeah, that's like acing a test just from changing how you write your notes.
Exactly. I know, right?
Wow. Okay.
Powerful stuff.
So mind mapping, 15% boost.
There you go.
What else?
All right. Well, speaking of getting a message across effectively,
Yeah.
this book also goes into infographics.
Infographics. Okay.
Which, let's be honest,
Yeah.
they're everywhere.
They are everywhere.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
Because they really tap into that visual processing power that
Right.
we were talking about.
Instead of just giving people a wall of text,
Exactly. You give them something that's visually appealing and
literally.
easy to understand.
It's kind of like, when you watch a documentary
Yes.
and it's engaging and it's exciting versus reading a really dry research paper.
Exactly.
It's one you're ooh, I need a nap. And the other one you're ooh, tell me more.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny, I was reading that companies that have started using infographics
Yeah.
have seen a 12% jump
Really?
in user engagement.
Wow.
Which, when you think about it, it makes sense because, like, we're just bombarded with information all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah.
So it's like our brains have to filter
Right.
and decide what to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And a good infographic, it cuts through all the noise.
Right.
It's like, bam, here's some information that's easy to understand.
It's attractive, too, so you're drawn to it.
Exactly. And then you want to learn more, which is the whole point.
Right. Okay, so we've got mind mapping infographics.
So another one they mentioned was sketchnoting.
Sketchnoting. Okay.
Have you heard of this one?
I feel like I've heard of it, but I don't really know what it is.
Okay, is it hard?
No, it's actually super accessible.
Okay.
And really effective.
Okay.
Think of it as like a combination of mind mapping and note-taking.
Yeah, I got it.
So you're taking notes, right?
Wow.
But instead of just using words, you're also adding in little sketches and icons and visual cues.
So it's like doodling,
Kind of.
but with a purpose.
Yes, exactly.
Doodling with a purpose.
Okay, got it. And that helps you, remember it better because
Because you're engaging with it on a deeper level.
Okay.
You're not just passively listening or reading. You're actively processing the information.
Right.
And you're translating it into, like, your own visual language.
Interesting.
And that process of translating and encoding, it makes it stick.
So does it actually make a difference? Like, they measure that?
Yeah, they can.
Really?
According to the book, sketchnoting can increase your comprehension and recall by like 29%.
29.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Okay, so this is serious business.
Serious.
We're not just talking about making our notebooks look pretty.
No. Yeah.
This is
next level learning.
It's like brain training.
It is brain training. We're rewiring our brains to learn and remember better.
29%. That's wild.
It is really impressive.
So we're talking about more than just pretty notes. This is like really changing how our brains work. Yeah, totally. It makes you wonder, like, if we're hardwired for this visual stuff,
Right.
how many people are really using it?
Yeah, like, are we using our brains to their full potential here?
Exactly.
Good question. Well, lucky for us, this book, it digs into that a little bit.
Okay.
It says that something like 65% of people are visual learners.
Wow.
So chances are, if you're listening to this right now,
Right.
you're probably one of them.
That's amazing, and it makes sense when you think about it.
Right? Like, everything around us is visual.
Exactly. Think about it. We're surrounded by visual information all the time. Street signs, the apps on our phones.
Right.
Even going way back, our ancestors, they relied on visual cues to survive, right?
Oh, yeah.
Noticing like a change in the shadows
That's true.
could mean the difference between finding dinner or becoming dinner.
Yeah, that'll get your attention.
Yeah.
And speaking of getting your attention, this book talks about this thing called the picture superiority effect.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. It's actually one of the core principles of visual learning.
Okay, so what is it? Break it down for me.
It's basically saying that we remember images way better than we remember words. And we remember them for longer, too.
Really? That makes sense, I guess, if you think about it.
Like, imagine trying to remember a list of ingredients for a recipe.
Yeah, okay.
After a few days, you'd probably struggle to remember them all, but show you a picture of that finished dish.
Oh, totally, like a big plate of pasta.
Exactly. You're going to remember that way more easily.
Way more appetizing, too. So
Yeah.
images, they just stick with us in a way that words don't.
They really do.
Okay, so we've talked about, like, the science behind it and some of these cool techniques.
Yeah. It's not just theory. There are real-world applications for all of this.
Right, so it's more than just, mind maps and infographics.
Exactly. This is about changing how we approach, like, everything. Learning, solving problems, even making decisions.
So, like, how is this being used in the real world?
Well, like, in the business world, people are using these visual tools to communicate better, work faster, make better decisions.
Okay, does it work?
Yeah. It actually makes a big difference. Like, some businesses have seen something like a 36% improvement just in their decision-making when they use these visual tools.
Wow, that's huge, 36%.
Yeah.
What about other areas? Like, what about education?
Yeah, education is a big one. Teachers are using visual stuff more and more to help people learn, especially people who learn better visually.
And it's working.
It is. It's actually pretty cool. Like, students who use these techniques, they tend to score like 20% higher on tests.
20% get out. Okay, what about, like, healthcare?
Even in healthcare. You know how sometimes doctors have to explain complicated medical stuff?
Right, yeah.
Well, they've started using visuals to help explain those procedures better. And you know what? It's actually led to a 40% reduction in patient anxiety.
Wow, 40%. That's amazing.
Right. It's pretty remarkable how powerful visuals can be.
Okay, so big takeaway from all of this. Visual thinking, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
It works.
Yeah.
And it can really make a difference.
It really can, so don't underestimate it.
Exactly. Don't just think, oh, this is just to make things look pretty.
Right, this is about working smarter, not harder.
This is about using your brain the way it's meant to be used.
Absolutely.
So we challenge you, our listeners. Pick one of the techniques we've talked about today. Mind mapping, infographics, sketchnoting, even just looking at more pictures.
Give it a try, see what happens.
You might surprise yourself.
You never know. You might unlock a whole new level of thinking.
Until next time, happy visual thinking, everyone.